Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
I was just talking in the last segment about crime in New York in the late 70s, early 80s. And I wanted to say something, though. I made the point that the situation in crime is so totally different now. Some of it's really frightening, but it's not the same as it was back when these kinds of songs are you could hear them on the streets. There was this whole thing here in New York and other major cities. Guys would walk down the street with those boom boxes, like those big tape decks, and they would blast them. And I haven't seen that in like 35 years, anyone doing that in New York City. And then I was on the subway a couple of weeks ago, and somebody had one of those speakers. It wasn't a boombox, but it was a speaker, presumably a Bluetooth kind of thing. And it was a woman, actually, and she had it strapped around her like a purse, and it was blasting something. It wasn't a 70s song or an 80s song. This song was, I'm going to say this was 1985 or 84. Again, I'm doing my own James Bolin impersonation here. I love Kool and the Gang. Man, would they make money on residuals or what? You cannot go to a wedding or a bar mitzvah in New York and not hear the song Celebration. I think it's like a rule. They get money for that, by the way. Anyway, let's get serious here now for a second. You know, the swamp is the swamp, and I think it's a good term to use. I don't care about people who get very personally offended when you say that. I'm sorry. You'll just have to get over it. What people need to understand is that you can't drain the swamp in a day. In fact, sometimes you're just not going to be able to drain it at all. But our guest right now is someone who has been convicted of a crime, and his sentencing is coming up in just a couple of days, May 20th. I'm speaking, we're talking now on May 17th right now, Sunday evening. And a number of people, independent folks looking at his case, absolutely believe that he is the victim of vestiges of the Biden-Obama Justice Department, even though President Trump's been back in office for more than a year. Speaking with Michael Castella. Michael, tell the audience your story and what you're facing in a couple of days.
I'm facing full forfeiture of my homes, whatever money I have. And basically, the reason why I'm on the radio with you today is because they would put my wife and kids on the street without even thinking twice about it. I mean, they want everything from my home to my wife's sunglasses and everything in between.
And what were you convicted of that's led to this this whole thing?
I was convicted of securities fraud, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, wire fraud, 2 counts of obstruction of justice. And they're all charges that are fully incorrect because what we did is we owned a pre-IPO fund called Straight Path Venture Partners. And we were what's called an exempt reporting advisor under the Securities and Exchange Commission. So basically what they did is from 2021 on, during a routine audit, whatever information we gave them was voluntary, and they took that voluntary information to basically take the company from us because the company still has generated over $30 million in revenue since it's been taken from us. They took it under a Ponzi-like scheme. Again, either you are or you're not. Either you're a Ponzi scheme or you're not. And what Ponzi-like scheme still operates as a business that's generated, I'd say anywhere from 18 to 30 million in revenue in 4 years after the fact.
Did any of your customers ever sue and say that you swindled them?
No, 2,200 customers, not one customer complaint. We showed our customers 2 to 3x returns, but that was blocked in the trial because the math will always set you free. And if you block the math, you could indict a ham sandwich.
So the argument now, there's something even more current in your court right now, which is that the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, the Southern District of New York, is pushing back on you doing interviews like this and making statements and making political statements. Last I heard, you don't lose your First Amendment rights before you're even sentenced, correct?
Correct. And it's all because, I mean, listen, they in the trial showed my Instagram account, my wife's Instagram accounts. I relocated from Staten Island to Florida. I went to, Mar-a-Lago, semi-regular basis, from property almost every weekend. I had a membership. So, there's a lot of dots that you could piece together and put this puzzle together. So absolutely it was, because again, I was very vocal about the 2020 election being stolen, especially on social media. So if they're going to cherry pick what they show to the jury in a trial of my Instagram account, then they all behind the scenes are also looking at every single Instagram post that I had and every single Facebook post that I had and everything else.
Right. And as anyone can tell you, a couple of things. A New York City convened jury we've seen this time and again. If there's anything that's connected to Trump that the defendants, or if it's Trump himself, the chances of them getting convicted are through the roof. I absolutely believe there has been a concerted effort by leftist groups to stack juries in New York City. People are being encouraged to immediately respond to jury summonses, and they're also getting their ducks in a row so that they're more likely to get jury summonses. I think that conservatives need to start thinking not just about justices and not just about judges that President Trump can appoint, but finding ways to get people to also be on juries. But, it just seems to me that whatever you had to say about President Trump or being a guest at Mar-a-Lago, why was that allowed to be shown to the jury at all? What does that have to do with the price of eggs in China?
Oh, my lavish lifestyle that I lived because President Trump's first term allowed me to achieve the American dream. Mm-hmm.
So that was the justification. So they wanted to show that you were at country clubs and doing these kinds of things, and it just happened to be Mar-a-Lago. You could say any other fancy country club in Florida, and it wouldn't have tainted the jury as much in New York. I mean, this is a jury pool in New York City that has convicted Donald Trump of mortgage fraud because Mar-a-Lago was worth only $18 million, according to New York State. I mean, the parking lot at Mar-a-Lago is worth more than $18 million. This is a jury that had convicted President Trump of lying about raping E. Jean Carroll, who was an absolute off-the-wall loon.
Same judge that stole my company.
Same judge.
Him of that.
Yeah. So there you go. Now, let me ask you a question. It seems to me in cases like this, especially without any of your customers filing complaints, isn't this usually one of those things where they kind of like say, hey, pay this fine, get your papers in a row, that kind of thing? I mean, why weren't you allowed to just pay the $2 and go home?
So in May of 12th, I think, of 2022, or 11th, I don't remember the exact date. They basically says pay us $75 million, which is what me and my partners made, through the success of the fund, right? My company, we made a lot of money on the back end profit that we made our customers. So if you invested $100,000 with me, Jake, and I made you another 100, off the 100 that I made you, I took 20 as a company. Mm-hmm. Right? So they said pay every dollar you've made, and we'll just take the company from you and call it a day. And we're like, why? This went from, they wanted us to pay a fine, which me and my partners were, okay, we got the government, new administration, they want their taste, and we'll pay whatever fine they want, to basically overnight just deciding that they're going to take our company and give it to Judge Kaplan's friend, a court-appointed receiver, who's not even approved with the U.S. government to be a receiver.
Now, you're looking at sentencing. Is it a definite date, May 20th, which would be Wednesday? Is that definite?
Yeah, unless somebody intervenes between now and then.
Okay. there is, there's a couple of instances like this that I've noticed, and this was why I began this segment by reminding people that the swamp is vast, political corruption in this country, and machinations against President Trump and his supporters. And people need to understand. I know President Trump's been doing a lot of bravado here and talking about running for a third term. I think that is actually just a brilliant strategy to keep people in the Republican Party from thinking of him as a lame duck. I don't think he's going to run for another term. Don't worry about that, folks. But that said, there have been a number of cases where I think that we're still not there as far as a complete clear out and people being aware of what's going on. For example, we have some American pilots who are being held in Guyana, things like, Guinea, which is in Africa, the country of Guinea. And I think that this is a case, too, where, is it possible that the good guys in the Justice Department really aren't just completely on page here and really don't know enough about your case?
I hope that's the case. I hope that is the reason why it hasn't really gotten to the president now. It's a year and a half in, and I was hoping I'd be able to do it. But the Southern District of New York is like you said, they lead in the cesspool of evil.
So there's a lot to clear out, I would assume. One of the things that
how
you
much
could
can
do,
one man do? Because that's also the other part,
yeah.
Right? We can all agree that President Trump's heart is definitely in the right place, but is stuff being held back from him, or maybe I'm just one little grain of salt and the whole 50-pound bag of salt of problems that are being thrown at him every second of the day?
Yeah. One of the things that I found disturbing when you first contacted me is I did the usual searches on the search engines, and the search engines aren't your friend. There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing that explains the extenuating circumstances. There's nothing in the official reports about how none of your customers complained or brought charges against you in their own capacity. And believe me, when people make investments and they lose money, even when it's completely not anyone's fault, they'll sue anyway. Believe me, that happens a lot. So there was nothing in there until we had this great piece in the Gateway Pundit, which I think just came out in the last couple of days, that summarizes very well. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece, how people can find it, who wrote it, stuff like that?
It was written by Jonathan Gross. Jonathan Gross he's actually a ex-DOJ attorney that left the DOJ. That I guess he's been tracking cases that have been deemed labeled as weaponized, and he's the one that kind of has been tracking it, and he found the information on me and took an interest and reached out, and he said you've definitely been weaponized against. He was tasked with trying to dismiss all cases that were weaponized, and I believe he said not one of those cases have been dismissed.
All right. Well, best of luck to you, Michael Castella. This is, by the way, for those of you who want more information about this, I just want to give you, it's Jonathan Gross, Gross, in the Gateway Pundit. The title, "We Voted for Trump. We Got a Kamala Harris DOJ." Michael Castella is being sentenced on May 20th unless someone intervenes. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here on this Sunday evening here on 77 WABC.